right, good morning, BZB TV fans. Today we have two special guests. It's going to be Emil and Andrew from Loupedeck. How are you guys doing today?
Good morning, all. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Just trying to remember, because of course you guys are in California, we're in Europe, so it's not morning here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is not quite morning where you guys are at, but for us, we are just starting the day. But we're really excited to have you guys on. One of the things that we have, I believe, a little bit of a partnership between the companies with a plugin that goes on between our equipment and your guys' equipment. So we're really to kind of learn a little bit more about the Loupedeck and the different, well, I guess I should say the different Loupedeck, because there's not just one. There's a few different products. They're all kind of tailored to different applications. So I'll let you guys kind of just take it away from here and tell us about what products you guys have, kind of the advantages of them. We have a few questions regarding them, but we'll get to those in a little bit.
Oh wow, questions as well. Could be fun. Right, so let me kick off. So I look after our sales worldwide. Loupedeck is still a relatively small startup company based in Helsinki in Finland. So like I say, I've got the pleasure of looking after our retail and distribution sales, and also working with partners like BZBGEAR. So we started almost 6 years ago now, and what we actually do is pretty straightforward. We make a range of consoles which basically interact directly with creative software. So the whole idea is we make life easier. So we take all the commands, all the controls from all your different bits of software, all the menus and the sub-menus and the sliders and the bits and pieces you could never, ever find, and we stick them all in one place on a series of touch buttons and also dials as well. So all great and simple to use. So really the big advantage of using Loupedeck, the first is ease of use. I mean, basically these things come out the box. You download a plugin or a profile for the software and it's up and running. The great thing is that you can have controls for multiple software on there at once. So you can, as I'm doing at the moment, you can control your stream, you can control cameras, you can control your audio, all from one place. So you're not having to worry about finding all these different controls. Work across a huge range of software. We have a marketplace with lots and lots of plugins and profiles and sound packs and things on our website. And we also now have a rapidly growing community of developers, and it's great to have BZB among those developers. And you guys have created this plugin so you can also control the BZB gear cameras. So like you say, we have 4 products, one of which we're not going to really talk about today at all, because that's the Loupedeck Plus, and that's designed really for photo editing. So not really particularly relevant for this. But we then have really the family of, shall we say, the modern Loupedecks. So Live S and Live, which Emil show you more in a little bit more detail. There we go. Are really designed for creatives, for streaming, for video production, for PTZ camera control. Live S retails out at around about $190 and Live at $270. And then for the power editors, we have the Loupedeck CT, retails out at $560 and is really a very powerful editing tool for video editors, creatives, Photoshop users. You name it, it will do it. And I think the great thing about all our products is not only are they great for creatives, they're great as just a general day-to-day productivity tool. So, in my boring life as a sales manager, my Loupedeck sits on my desk. There we go. That's my Loupedeck Live sat on my desk. I have loads of really boring shortcuts to a load of programs that I use on a regular basis. Nice button in the top corner to allow me to launch all the programs I need first thing in the morning. I've got controls for Excel spreadsheets. As I said, I'm running this on OBS at the moment. So we've got controls for OBS, got controls for audio on there as well. So that in a nutshell is what we do. I'll hand over to Emil, who can show you the product and the software in a little bit more detail. And then we can talk about how it works with the BZBGEAR cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a great plan. I know, just looking at how you were doing all of that, I might have to add that to my little repertoire over here, so that way I have it in the arsenal to use while I'm doing this, because that would make handling some of the stuff a lot easier.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, Emil, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Andrew. So what I will be doing today is that I too am running my Loupedeck via OBS, so I can easily go through this view. I will be just running through the UI and showing a couple of examples here and there. And that should sort of get a sense of what you can do with the device. It's quite in-depth. It comes with many layers, and the options to customize it are endless. You saw Andrew, basically our power user, using it nearly everything, and you can go even further than that. But the best way to go about that is to explain the user interface. So to start off with, the UI is basically in three parts. We've got the top bar here. We've got the device view in the middle, and then the action bar to the right. So if we go all of these in order, it should be quite clear what you can do and how you customize it. The top bar with the device view, you've got a drop down of all the devices. So if you are running a setup that uses all of the Loupedeck devices, you can have them all hooked up, and you can customize them separately and have sort of a very power editing workspace. We've got users that actually do that. In the middle, we've got a profile dropdown, and this is sort of the heart of the Loupedeck system. So we've got two kinds of profiles, a main profile and an application profile. And this is basically just for different kinds of use. So a main profile would be what you currently see displayed here. It is something that I use in Windows. I've got my Windows volume to the left. I've got a little volume mixer as well that I can jump into and control different outputs of volumes in Windows. I can take a screenshot. I can lock my workstation. So the main profile is basically just for any kind of productivity usage within your workstation. Later on, you've got the application profiles, and these are where we come from, the creative industry. So these are profiles that are specifically intended for certain creative applications that have plugins with them. So we've got a bunch of the Adobe suite, for example, and vMix. And these are just made by us as a factory default. You can create a profile for any application you'd like, but these ones are that we provide. And if I, for example, jump to something like Photoshop, you can see that the Loupedeck device over here will jump into the Photoshop profile, and I can now go ahead and select, for example, different tools. I can do the lasso tool. I can do a content-aware fill by just one button. I can create different kinds of layers. Probably can't see it, it's in the right. It's down in the right corner. And we can do all these kinds of cool stuff in Photoshop. Like if I create a layer that has some kind of layer properties, let's see if I can see it there, like hue and saturation. You can see that I can use the dials on the Loupedeck to actually control the properties of that layer. So we've got deep running integrations with a lot of these Adobe software that are actually much more powerful than you'd think with just your keyboard shortcuts. And then because of how the profiles behave, if I go ahead and switch to something like Lightroom, if I bring that up here, the Loupedeck itself will switch over to a Lightroom profile, and I can immediately start editing in Lightroom and start about my photo editing. This is a behavior that you can change in the software from the dynamic mode switch, but it's very handy if you are running different profiles, different software. You have a rigid workflow that you're working through. Quick this software, do your edits, this software, do your edits, and then you will speed up your workflow by 25, 30%. And then we've got the workspace menu. So if you look at the Loupedeck system in sort of a hierarchy, we've got the device first, then we've got a profile, and under a profile, we've got a workspace. You can think of the workspace as sort of like a collection of tools, a folder of tools. So I've got, in this main profile, I've got 3 workspaces set up here. One for my daily use, one for my applications, and just one for OBS. And this OBS is, for example, just hooked up to a few sources and scenes, so I can quickly switch through them. And this workspace's term is just basically for users to better categorize their workflow. So if we go again to the Lightroom Classic profile, for example, you can see that you've got a workspace for the rating, a workspace for the basic adjustments, a workspace for the developed presets. So it's just a way of keeping your workflow neat and organized. And that brings us to the device view. So I'm using now currently the Loupedeck Live. Everything I'm showing here is applicable to all of our devices, but the Loupedeck Live is the easiest to sort of understand, or because you can transfer the knowledge up to the Loupedeck CT, which basically has the bottom half. And then we've got the Live S, which is the smaller version with just 2 dials. But the power is not in the device itself, it's in the software. So everything you can do in the software can be used in all of the devices. You just have to work around certain things, like the Loupedeck Live has 5 dials, 6 dials, and the Loupedeck Live S has only 2. So you might want to think around the workspaces and how you use your dials, etc. The device view is very simple. It's a one-to-one of the device, and it basically just shows you what you have assigned. You can have multiple pages. If you can add how many pages you'd like to the touch buttons or to the dials, and you can then navigate them by swiping. Up or down, left or right. And to add actions, then you basically go to the right panel, the action panel. You can browse through any of the different plugin categories that we have, or you can add more from the marketplace. And basically how you add actions is that you drag and drop. So if I want a keyboard shortcut action, I will drag and drop it here. I will record it here to the bottom right corner. I will click save, and then a new action has been created. After that, I can start customizing it with different icons. We've got a icon editor here, and you can upload your own icons, and you can use icons from the marketplace icon pack that I'll be showing in after we've gone through all of the UI. And then these categories here will be by plugin, but you can also show and hide. So we've got like Spotify, Streamlabs, and Twitch. These are now hidden per default because I'm not using actively any of these applications. But OBS, for example, which I'm running this through, would have then a list of OBS actions. We've got the scenes, the sources, audio, all of these. And if you have the BZB plugin that you installed from the marketplace, that will be visible here. You can show it, and then you connect it. You connect it to any profile that you would want. All right. So then if we look more about the Loupedeck actions and the Loupedeck profiles, I mentioned that you can make the Loupedeck work in any application that basically has keyboard shortcuts. So this is one of our strengths as a software manufacturer and hardware manufacturer, is that we have this Add Application button here. We can select whichever software we want to. Be it, well, just let's select anyone, Steam, for example. Let's create a profile for that. And now it has created just an empty profile that will recognize whenever I go to Steam. Okay, that in itself might not make that much sense, but you can apply this to any software you'd like. And then you would start to do your actions with the Loupedeck custom actions. And the custom actions are something that power this entire device to new levels in terms of productivity and what you can do with it. So these are found in the custom actions tab here. You drag and drop them onto the dials, like I showed you with the keyboard shortcut, or you can add them directly to the vacant touch buttons. And these are stuff like you can open application. So if I go back to the main profile again, you can see that I have a bunch of applications and websites set up here. So that's open application and web page. You can set it up to play some sounds if you are something like a streamer and you want to have a soundboard, or if you just want to route sound through to a specific output. We've got the sound action here, so you can basically select the output where you want to send it, the volume in which it goes through, and the name of it. We've got the text action. This lets you paste any form of text up to 999 characters. Press one button and it will paste it there. Then we've got the multi-action or the macro. And this is sort of a mix of all of the actions. So this lets you do really powerful combinations. Like I've got an action here for my IP config, which is just a collection of 7 different actions. And you can always add more of the actions down here and then make up to an unlimited amount of like sequences of what you want to do. So this is just a way to streamline your workflows. If you have something you do very often in a very specific way, it lets you put everything in that order and just execute everything with the touch of one button. Very useful in video editing, very useful in photo editing, and also in broadcasting, where you might want to have a 5-second delay and switch on an input or something like that. Then we've got the multi-toggle, which is basically like the macro. It basically the multi-action, but instead of executing the entire sequence at once, you can add steps to it. So you can add a keyboard shortcut and then another keyboard shortcut, and then that lets you press through the different shortcuts that you have. I think I've got possibly have one saved somewhere. That should be just 2 times space, and that should be, let's see if I have it anywhere. I had it, of course, naturally, but I've taken it away before this. But I'll just create a new one so you can see what we've done. So if we got the multi-toggle, I'll put it here. I'll select a keyboard shortcut. I'll just record it to be a space. I'll rename it as play. And I'll add a step, another keyboard shortcut, play again, and then name it pause. Or space again, and then name it pause. And what this does is, if we give it an icon from my beautiful VLC media player icons here, we can do the play icon, and we can put a pause icon onto it, like so. Save that here and then there. And now you can see that it cycles through the actions. So this is just, you can have different kind of toggles to software that don't listen back, that we don't have plugins with. Then we've got the dial adjustment. A dial adjustment is a sort of like a keyboard shortcut, but for the dials itself. So if you want to send out something with the dial, like a left key or right key, or Control Shift left key, Control Shift right key to navigate something like a timeline somewhere, you can easily create that and add it to any of the dials. And last but not least, we've got the run action. So the run action is essentially your same as your Windows run panel. So it lets you execute different kinds of, you can do scripts, you can run bat files, or you can just use it to open folders that you use a lot. So basically, just anything that you can think of doing with the run command, you can put also onto here. With the added benefit that you can, of course, customize it, make it your own, and add a nice visual to it. And that basically covers the action list, action panel of the UI. You've got different kinds of actions under the different kinds of categories, but they are all basically self-explanatory for that. So Loupedeck device actions are actions that relate somehow to the Loupedeck device. MIDI lets you create MIDI inputs and outputs, and OBS for OBS. And then let's lastly have a look at the marketplace, where you can find a ton of more content, such as the BZB plugin. So currently we've got about 7 or 8 categories here. We've got some profiles. So profiles are keyboard shortcut based that we've made or users have made. And you can just download these and install them, and they will basically work right out the box. And you can immediately integrate any of these software into your Loupedeck workflow. Next up, we've got plugins, and this is exactly like we've done with the partnership with BZBGEAR. This is a plugin that's made with the Loupedeck Open SDK that is open for developers to create content for us. And the BZBGEAR plugin will work with the PTZ cameras. You can, I guess, call the presets that you've made and control them maybe in other ways. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time to test that one out, but I'm sure the BZB guys have tested it out for us. We've got a bunch of different stuff like Lumia Stream, the Microsoft Flight Sim. Yeah, a bunch of cool stuff for people to use. Also, the companion plugin is something that a lot of people have liked. To use the BitFocus companion app. So this basically makes your Loupedeck into a shot box. Some people might be familiar with the Elgato Stream Deck implementation of that one, and this one has been quite popular amongst the broadcasters. We've got icon packs, tons of icon packs to just make the Loupedeck look however you want it to look. Sound packs, just a few of them, just to showcase that you can actually do it as a sound port device. We've got some stream overlays. These are more affiliate kind of stuff, but if you are looking to sort of boost up your OBS and your streaming presence, you can get good suggestions from here. Emotes and badges, also for Twitch and streamers. And then lastly, we've got a few presets here for Lightroom that you can sort of just get links on and buy them. And that's basically the marketplace. So it's about under a year old, just under a year old. So we are seeing more and more content come in. It's sort of starting to snowball, and I'm sure that within a year we'll have tons of more cool content there that is just like community contributions, etc. And I think that's my spiel with the UI. If there's any questions, you're welcome to ask those.
Yeah, that seems actually like quite a bit to cover.
I'm gonna say, did you get all that? We're gonna give you a test now.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. And this is just scraping the surface.
Yeah, and that's kind of the most interesting thing. Is it just kind of seems like, specifically this product, it seems very much like the sky's the limit on what you want to do with it. It can be as or as basic as you want it. So like, if you just want to use it to run your Spotify, change music, you can do that. But if you want to get really in depth and like start running some shortcuts and macros for like Premiere Pro, you can do that, and that's something that's very interesting to me. I mean, I do plenty of editing, so anything that I can do to kind of cut down on the workflow and make it faster and more efficient is always a welcome addition.
Yeah, I don't think anybody actually likes editing, and of course, so many streamers and video guys, they're creating their own content. So I often look at software. I mean, we've just got a new integration for an audio company, and I looked at their software, and I just thought, who designed the UI? It's just unusable. But being able to put all those controls for multiple software in one place, in the order you want, so rather than to sort through a menu and a sub menu, or even on a slider, trying to find that slider on your screen with a mouse or a graphics tablet and moving it left and right. You want to be concentrating on what you're doing, what you're creating, not having to concentrate on the software.
Yeah, absolutely. And hardware interfacing with that software is always a big thing. Like I used to always just be like, oh, I would never use a laptop for editing. I will never use a laptop for editing. I will never do it. MacBooks are silly. All of that stuff, because like, why would I use a touchpad when I can just use a mouse? It's so much faster. But then I got a MacBook finally, because the Apple M1 chips rolled around, and they actually ended up being really good for editing. And I was surprised, very pleasantly so, with how much of a difference the touchpad and their implementation of it, the way that you can actually interact with it and how it interacts with the software, changes my workflow. So if you can have a hardware device that can change your workflow in a positive way, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I sorry guys, I got in a little late, but I was gonna have questions for Emil, but I mean, he did such a wonderful job on his spiel. I at BZBGEAR I work with Adobe Creative Suite, so Illustrator, Photoshop. He kind of touched on all of that. So I mean, I just love how it just makes like the tedious and just repetitive assignments just a lot easier to access and just get to presets and whatnot. I mean, I'm assuming it works with, like, say something like InDesign as well,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah,
like,
so
the
for most of
graphics-wise, stuff, but,
so for most of
you know,
the
would it benefit for InDesign?
yeah, so for most
to
of the
use
Adobe
this?
software, we will have like preset profiles out of the box. Like you will get like everything ready in the device, so you don't even have to configure anything. We don't have one for InDesign like plugin wise, but I think there is one on the marketplace if I'm not mistaken. So if I just go ahead and look for InDesign, yes, we do have a profile for InDesign. So basically, this will have all of the keyboard shortcuts ready for you to just like download this, install, and you're good to go.
Okay, yeah, just, man, wonderful. I mean, just also just right out the box, right? When you open it, I mean, you know, like for just other people like sneakerheads and just, you know, when people get gadgets, what the first impression is the box, you know. So I mean, the Loupedeck comes in like just this very nice, you know, elegant box, and
Yeah,
when
it is a
you
very nice
get the
box.
unit, it just you're surprised how, you know, small and sleek the little thing is, but it's you know, so powerful, and it could do just about anything, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, Joel, being able to kind of cut down on sort of the tediousness, or something like, for example, Emil already kind of showed it off, but in Lightroom. And this also applies to Premiere itself, but like when you're color grading, when you're color editing, all of that stuff, you can do it with a slider or with a point on a graph or anything like that with a mouse. But having a dial, just something that you can make small incremental changes and stuff like that, I think is huge.
So also for the Premiere Pro, and in specifically in terms of color grading, the Loupedeck CT is fantastic for that, because we've got the wheel here. So the wheel is actually a touch wheel, so you can actually use the color grading wheels with your finger, like as the point where you want to color grade. So you just run your finger through it and you see everything happen in Premiere, and it's really fantastic. We've got editors that have 3 CTs, one for each color wheel set up, because they don't want to switch between them too much. So they love it, that setup. And it's really just makes for a really good, fast workflow.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
it definitely
mentioned,
seems
yeah,
like
you
it.
mentioned the editing on a laptop. I mean, one of the great things which we haven't mentioned because it does so much is because you don't need the menus and the sub menus and the panels down the side, you can actually edit full screen. So if you're working on a, you know, let's say a 15-inch laptop, by the time Adobe has taken all that real estate away with the sliders and menus and things, you're trying to color grade or edit on a little screen like this, and actually you can do it full screen. And it is so, I mean, you know, I'll give you an example of how easy it is to use in Premiere. I'm a photographer. I'm not a videographer. I've never used Premiere at all. We did a show in India last year, and literally in 10 minutes, I had to be trained by one of our tech guys to be able to do basic editing and color grading in Premiere. And literally after 10 minutes, I could do it because everything was there in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of utilizing some hardware-based editing tools instead of like just doing it all through a software interface, and it is very nice. But usually, what you run into with those, the problem is it's just prohibitively expensive usually. But for you guys, one of the really nice things is your guys' products aren't really that expensive at all.
Thank you. And I think the other thing is, let's say you buy an edit deck from a well-known video software manufacturer. It's a fantastic product. It's beautifully made. It is brilliant at what it does. But that's all it does. If you then flip, if most editors these days are using 2 or 3 or 4 different software, you might be using the whole gamut of the Adobe Creative Suite. There's 4 or 5 pieces of software there, and you can have all those controls in one place where you know where they are. And then you've got, let's say, you're doing a stream, you're doing some video production. You've then got all your camera controls there as well. You've got all your audio controls. You want to play some music, from an online source, run that in, flip over to commentary. Yeah, basically you can do what you want. The more you tend to use Loupedeck, the more things you start adding to it, where you suddenly realize, actually, I can use it for that. I can use it for this. I have my Wi-Fi hi-fi system audio set up on my Loupedeck. So a call comes in, I can mute that, take the call.
Yeah, that's just fantastic to have it at your fingertips. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we kind of talked about it a little bit. And the BZBGEAR plugin, I know that we actually, like Emil said, we have tested it out a little bit. I know Flo, who is helping run some of this in the background over there with Joel. Flo did an excellent video on the whole system and just showing it off, running with cameras and stuff. So, like you mentioned, because this thing is so customizable and it can do so much, you can go from editing a video to maybe specifically, and this is really going to, I think, apply more to stuff like houses of worship.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a media guy there, you're probably doing video work. You're probably taking care of photos. You're probably also running the weekly live stream for services, all that stuff. And if you are running PTZ cameras on your services on Sunday, you can even take this thing and, like you guys mentioned, you can control some of your cameras with it. Now, the best way to do that is probably not like actually doing all of the controlling live with them, but getting presets set up and having presets that you can just flip through and all of that stuff. So I think that's a big thing for the broadcasting world that they can take advantage of something like this.
Yeah, and I think with the sort of the multi-action, the macro action as well, like if you've got 5 cameras with 5 different presets, you can basically make 5 actions that control all of the cameras at the same time. So you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can group them under one action, saying that I want these cameras now to do preset 3 that they've been set up to, and put it one action that will do that. Or you could even go more advanced and be like, first they will go into this action, wait for 10 seconds, and then pan over here. So it basically lets you be also more creative than you would maybe be with when you're first setting up, but you could think of all these kinds of ways to execute the transitions and stuff like that. I think that opens up for some really cool possibilities if you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that definitely harkens to the House of Worship crowd, because I've had a few conversations with some media guys from Houses of Worship that have been like, well, can I get combination moves going with your cameras, or can I do programmed move sets and all that kind of different things that they want to do because they want to get creative, especially during like the worship of the service or like a special memorial or something along those lines, and they want to kind of make sure that they're getting their creative touch out there, but also that what they're putting out also looks really good.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good thing to potentially consider when you're looking at other things that you can add to kind of up your production game, is maybe a hardware device interface. Because like I said, I was really surprised with some of the things that I have said, I don't really need, or I just pick up and I'm like, you know what, this really does make a difference. And I understand why people go the route that they do with buying specific editing hardware specifically.
Yeah. Well, you go back to that PTZ broadcast. You could throw some text in. You could put additional, content, slides, whatever, in literally at the push of a button. And all that can be automated. Because House of Worship is a great example, because there is some really, really great content coming out of House of Worship, and it is from people from a non-broadcast background. It tends to, a lot of these guys are volunteers. Yes, some are employed, some are volunteers. I think very few of them would actually describe themselves as broadcast experts. So anything which allows you to increase the quality of that content and make life easier, and as you say, automate things, I think that's great. I think this is a great fit for House of Worship.
Right. I mean, if you're not thinking about, okay, I need to make sure that I switch to this camera on the right time, while also making sure that I'm in the ear of my camera operator to tell them, hey, I need you to do this move and blah, blah, blah. And then also all of that stuff. If you can find ways to make it so you're not thinking about those things, then you're thinking about, okay, what can I do next to make this a better experience?
Yeah.
Right. So just little small things that can make your life easier or make it so you're not thinking about quite as much definitely makes it so you're focusing on the things that matter more.
Yep, definitely. And I think it's fair to say that, none of us are great at multitasking. We like to think we are. But at the end of the day, we've all been there in the heat of the moment that, the brain fog descends and that's it. So anything, exactly. Thanks for that, Joel. You illustrated beautifully why men can't multitask.
Yeah, we actually have a question from LinkedIn. Can you give more information on how Loupedeck Plus supports the NDI protocol, and does it also support Dante controller by Audinate?
The Loupedeck Plus is our old device, so that is basically it's being ported now to the new UI, but it does not support any NDI protocol as far as I know now in this early in this sort of porting process. Might be different in the future. It will have support for the custom profiles as well, so you can make it to do. You can ship out send out the keyboard shortcuts and all of these things that I show you in the creating a custom profile. But using it for NDI, I'm not really sure it's possible at the moment for the Loupedeck Plus.
I think the other thing to remember about Loupedeck Plus is its keyboard size. It's a fixed keyboard layout. They're physical keys and dials. So unlike Live S, Live, and CT, if you reconfigure the buttons, they still say on them whatever they were before. So you could reconfigure a dial which says exposure to do anything you wanted, but it's always going to say exposure on it. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I would never ever be able to work out what the hell that did. I would never remember.
Do any of the other products like the Loupedeck Live or the Live S, do they support anything NDI?
Surely it is possible via sort of the plugin SDK that we have, so anybody can make using the C# SDK that we provide. So you could create a plugin that sends that. We don't offer as natively from that because we come more from the creative side than the broadcasting side. So currently we do have a vMix integration. Which,
I was about to say vMix.
Some people like, so via vMix, I think you can do some NDI and PTZ controls as well. So there's some rudimentary ways of doing it, but no dedicated way as of yet. It's up to any developer basically who would like to do this kind of protocol plugin to do it, and that would be great actually.
Gotcha. So Trayvon, if you're looking at NDI or maybe Dante, you might want to bark up Audinate's tree or Newtek's tree a little bit and see, hey, you guys really need to give Loupedeck a look and maybe develop some software for it.
That would be awesome.
I mean, absolutely, because NDI and Dante definitely seem to be big movements in the industry right now. I mean, understandably so. I mean, if you can simplify your setup, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And if that means you're using the network, then that means you're using the network. But that also means you're not using extra cables. So that's always a nice thing. Joel, do you have any extra questions?
I mean, like I said earlier, I was gonna have some questions on how, the little things on how to incorporate it with Photoshop and setting up, but Emil already beat me to it as I was trying to. We had the little difficulties earlier, but then like I said earlier, just when you first get the product, you could tell that these guys put a lot of thought just into every aspect of it, from the unit itself to something as simple as a box. That's good first impression. So I mean, just appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep up all the hard work, and it's great to partner with you guys.
Thank you. And I think the important
Thanks
thing
very
you
much.
say about the user experience for all of the
Yeah.
categories we're in, whether it's photo, video, design, streaming, we actually have a product manager dedicated to that vertical. So, and these are people who actually use this product. They're professional photographers, they're professional streamers. So yeah, the layout out the box might not be exactly what you want it to be, but actually it's been put together by somebody who knows how that profession works. So, if you look at sake of argument, Lightroom, there's a workflow already built in, which is probably pretty close to what you're actually going to be doing. So, yeah, you might want to edit it and move things around to exactly how you work, but there's a good workflow there to get you up and running. And I think that's really important. There's nothing worse than getting a product out. And yeah, it's infinitely customizable, but it comes blank. So you really have to start from first principles and populate everything. And yeah, day one with a Loupedeck, you're not going to be absolutely perfect. There's always going to be a learning curve. There is a learning curve with any new technology or any new workflow. But certainly within a couple of days, you stop looking at the keys.
Yeah.
Like it is you can make it endlessly complex if you want to. I found out something the other day that I never thought about how you could do it, like something with the macros, and I've been here like 4 or 5 years. So I mean, it is as complex as you want it to be, but you can also just keep it to the basic, keep it how it comes out of the box, and just use those like however you want to use it. That's like the beauty of the product, basically, that it doesn't have to be harder than what it is.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I don't think I have any further questions. I think the only questions that I have left is how do I get my hands on one? But I think we actually still have one in the office, so I might be messing around with that.
Tell you what, Matt, drop me an email after this. I'll see what I can do for you.
I'd appreciate that, Andrew. So, gentlemen, I think that's just about it. I don't want to keep you guys up too late because I know it is getting a little bit later for you, gentlemen.
It's bedtime soon. Yeah, bedtime.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys coming on and just showing off the product, talking about how it works with some of our products and just the general benefits it has in kind of the creative and broadcasting world. So definitely, again, thank you.
You're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. Great to meet you both, guys.
Yeah,
It's been a
and thanks to our
pleasure.
audience for tuning in. And Trayvon, thanks for the question. We really appreciate it. But until next time, we will see you guys in another 2 weeks. So have a good rest of your Thursday and have a good weekend.
Enjoy.